Welcome to District Command Central, your go-to source for the latest news and updates on the Washington Commanders. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a play. The Washington Commanders are stepping back into the national spotlight, and the stage couldn't be more fitting. Monday Night Football, under the bright lights, against a familiar rival that still brings a sour taste to the memory of last season's chaos. The Chicago Bears are coming to town for what feels less like just another game and more like a statement opportunity for both sides. It's the kind of matchup that stirs emotion, invites nostalgia, and demands discipline. And if you listen to Jaden Daniels and head coach Dan Quinn, that discipline might be the very thing that defines Washington's mindset heading into this one. Because no matter how wild last year's ending was, that miracle Hail Mary that became a viral highlight and a franchise-shifting moment, neither Daniels nor Quinn wants to live in the past. They've closed that chapter, sealed it, and moved on to the next. This isn't about reliving what happened. This is about rewriting what comes next. Last year's Commanders-Bears showdown was one of those games that reminds you why football is theater. The build-up was immense. The number 1 and number 2 overall picks in the same building, the kind of generational talent duel that makes for an instant storyline. And then came the finale, a play so improbable that even months later, it's still replayed on highlight reels across social media. Daniels, cool under pressure, launched that Hail Mary that somehow found its way into the end zone amid a cluster of defenders, sealing one of the wildest finishes the league saw all season. It was part miracle, part madness, and it set two franchises on drastically different paths. Washington used that spark as fuel, charging into a postseason run that turned heads and reshaped expectations. The Bears, meanwhile, spiraled. The loss became a symbol of their inconsistency, prompting deep organizational changes once the season ended. So, naturally, as the rematch approaches, everyone wants to talk about that play. It's the elephant in the room, the ghost of games past that fans and reporters can't resist bringing up. But if you ask Jaden Daniels, he's not giving it another thought. In his mind, last season is a closed book, and the Commanders' focus belongs entirely in the present. His words this week said it all: calm, direct, and mature beyond his years. I just left that in last year. It speaks for itself, he told reporters. That Hail Mary ain't gonna help us win a game on Monday. So what's the point? You can almost hear the conviction in his tone, the refusal to let nostalgia cloud preparation. That's the kind of mentality coaches dream of seeing in their young quarterback: poise, clarity, and forward thinking. And if Daniels is setting the tone, Dan Quinn is echoing it perfectly. The veteran head coach, who's made a career out of building disciplined, resilient teams, isn't entertaining the idea of reliving last season's fireworks either. It's last year's story, Quinn said with a shrug. It was awesome. We loved it. But it doesn't apply to this week's game at all unless we get into that exact scenario and that exact situation. So then we can talk about it. But until then, we have a lot of stuff to get better at and work on to get ready. That quote tells you everything you need to know about how Quinn operates: grounded, focused, always looking ahead. He's not letting the narrative distract from the mission, which is simple: win the game in front of you. The truth is, this year's Commanders are not last year's Commanders, and the same goes for the Bears. Chicago comes into this matchup off a bye week, rested, reorganized, and eager to erase the embarrassment of that last meeting. Their roster looks sharper, their defense more cohesive, and their offensive scheme more balanced. For Washington, this is less about history and more about identity. They're coming off a solid win last week, a victory that seemed to reignite some of the spark from their playoff push, and they want to carry that momentum home. FedEx Field is expecting a loud crowd, hungry for another statement game under the lights. But if you listen to Quinn and Daniels, they know better than to get caught up in the noise. They know the stakes in the NFC are too high to let emotion override execution. Every conference matchup carries playoff implications, and dropping one at home could prove costly down the stretch. Still, there's something deeper at play here than just the standings. What's unfolding in Washington is a culture shift, and Daniels has quickly become the face of it. His demeanor, his preparation, his ability to tune out distractions, it's everything this franchise has needed for years. Since stepping into the role, he's brought a sense of calm confidence that radiates through the locker room. Teammates talk about how his leadership doesn't come from shouting or showmanship, but from consistency. He studies harder than anyone, owns his mistakes, and keeps everyone accountable. That's the kind of intangible that doesn't show up on stat sheets, but wins games in crunch time. And when your head coach mirrors that same energy, focused, grounded, unshaken, it creates alignment throughout the entire building. Of course, fans can't help but wonder what would happen if lightning struck twice. What if, by some twist of fate, Monday night came down to another last-second heave, another desperate Hail Mary? Would the Commanders even want that kind of déjà vu? Maybe not. But what's clear is that if it does happen, they'll be ready, not because they're chasing a repeat, but because they're prepared for every scenario. That's the Quinn way. That's the Daniels way. And that's what separates good teams from great ones. The ability to treat every game as a new story rather than a sequel. You can sense a quiet confidence around the Commanders' facility this week. There's no trash talk, no grand proclamations, just a collective focus. Players have been echoing their coach and quarterback all week. Last year was last year. It's not arrogance. It's maturity. They know that the NFL moves fast. Yesterday's hero is today's headline, and tomorrow's forgotten name. The teams that last are the ones that keep their eyes forward, not backward. Washington wants to be one of those teams. They're building something sustainable, and every decision, every practice, every soundbite seems to reflect that mindset. Meanwhile, the Bears have something to prove. For them, this game carries emotional weight. That loss last year still stings, no matter how much they downplay it publicly. Their locker room remembers the pain of watching the Commanders celebrate as their own season began to crumble. Coming off a bye week gives them time to reset, to heal, and to plan. They'll come in motivated, looking to punch back, to reclaim some pride. That's what makes this matchup so compelling. It's not just about strategy or stats, but about redemption, mindset, and how each side handles the ghosts of their past. And make no mistake, the Commanders know they'll get the Bears' best shot. Quinn has drilled that message home. No one in Washington is underestimating Chicago. They respect their opponent, but they refuse to be haunted by last season's ending. That's why Daniels' comments resonate so deeply. He's right. That Hail Mary won't help them this time. What will help is discipline, focus, and execution. What will help is the offensive line giving him time to throw, the receivers finding soft spots in the secondary, the defense closing gaps and forcing turnovers. Those are the things that win football games, not memories. So, as the lights go up on Monday night and the crowd roars, don't expect the Commanders to come out chasing ghosts. Expect them to come out composed, sharp, and ready to impose their will. Expect Jaden Daniels to play like the quarterback of the future, fearless, smart, and steady. Expect Dan Quinn to have his defense flying to the ball, his offense balanced, and his team mentally locked in. Because while fans and analysts may still be talking about that Hail Mary, the Commanders have already turned the page. This isn't about what happened. It's about what happens next. And that's the beauty of the NFL. Every rematch is a new story. The Commanders aren't interested in reliving last year's miracle. They're interested in proving that they don't need one this time. They're interested in showing that they've grown beyond the chaos, beyond the lucky bounce, into a team that wins because it's better prepared and better built. For Daniels, for Quinn, for the Commanders faithful, this Monday night isn't about revenge or repetition. It's about evolution. It's about a team and a quarterback stepping fully into the present, eyes locked on the future, with the past fading quietly in the rearview mirror. If you're enjoying the coverage, make sure to smash that like button and drop a comment with your thoughts on the Commanders' latest moves. We want to hear from you. All right, guys, buckle up, because what just happened over in Washington might be one of the wildest behind-the-scenes stories we've heard all season. I'm talking about serious fireworks, real tension, and the kind of locker room drama that could shake up the entire Commanders organization. You know, when a team's trying to rebuild, the vibe's supposed to be about discipline, structure, accountability, all that good stuff that a coach like Dan Quinn is known for. Well, apparently that calm, cool, and calculated demeanor went right out the window after a heated practice session this week. According to multiple people who were around when it all went down, Quinn completely lost it after a player, whose name the team's keeping quiet for now, crossed a line during the final portion of training. What started as a routine practice reportedly ended in a full-blown confrontation, voices raised, and Quinn walking off the field red-faced, shouting words nobody expected to hear from him. And the biggest bombshell? Quinn allegedly said, "He's done. He's not playing for me again." Yeah, that's right. The man who's known for preaching composure and team unity just told one of his guys that his days under him were finished. Now, here's where it gets even juicier. People close to the situation are saying this wasn't just a random outburst. Apparently, tension had been simmering for weeks between Quinn and this player, and Wednesday's practice was simply the boiling point. It wasn't just about one missed assignment or a botched play. It was personal. Insiders are whispering that the player had been testing Quinn's patience for a while, challenging his authority in subtle ways, showing up late to team meetings, giving half-effort during drills, and even throwing shade in the locker room about the team's new defensive system. For a coach like Quinn, who's all about discipline and buying in, that's basically mutiny. So when tempers flared on the practice field, it wasn't just about that day's mistake. It was about weeks, maybe months, of frustration exploding all at once. Witnesses said the argument started during a defensive drill when Quinn corrected the player's positioning, and the player fired back with a snarky comment that apparently crossed the line. At first, Quinn tried to brush it off, but then the player doubled down, and that's when things got ugly. One assistant coach had to physically step between them, and players nearby reportedly froze. Nobody wanted to even move or say anything. It was one of those moments where the energy in the air just shifts instantly. And then, in that quiet after the storm, Quinn made it crystal clear that the relationship was over. He pointed at the locker room and told the player to get out. No sugarcoating, no diplomacy, just pure emotion. You could hear a pin drop after that. Some guys looked shocked, others nodded like they saw it coming, but everyone knew something big had just gone down. And let's not forget who Dan Quinn is. This isn't some hot-headed rookie coach trying to prove himself. This is a guy who's been to a Super Bowl, who's built elite defenses, who's respected across the league for his leadership and calm presence. For him to lose it like that, it means something serious must have gone on behind the scenes. And the Commanders are in a fragile spot right now. They're trying to change the culture, shake off the years of dysfunction, and reestablish some kind of identity under new ownership and leadership. The last thing they need is drama leaking from the locker room, especially involving the head coach. But this story's already spreading like wildfire among players, agents, and insiders, and it's only a matter of time before fans start connecting the dots and guessing who the mystery player is. Some reporters who cover the team daily hinted that the player might be a recent addition, maybe someone who didn't exactly fit Quinn's philosophy from day one. There's talk it could be a veteran with a big personality, someone used to doing things their own way, who clashed with Quinn's demand for discipline. Others say it might even be a younger guy who's been struggling to earn playing time and decided to vent his frustration at the wrong moment. Whatever the case, sources say Quinn's decision isn't up for debate. One insider said, "He meant what he said. That player won't take another snap for Quinn." It's rare to see a coach draw such a hard line mid-season, but apparently, he's standing firm. And if we know anything about Quinn, it's that when he draws a line in the sand, he doesn't move it. Now, you've got to imagine what's happening inside that building right now. The front office is probably scrambling to do damage control, trying to keep this from becoming a full-blown media circus. The PR team's likely been instructed to keep everything in-house, which is NFL speak for, "We're not commenting until we absolutely have to." Meanwhile, players are texting their agents, rumors are flying in group chats, and the whole team's trying to figure out how this affects their upcoming game plan. Does this mean the Commanders are about to cut the player? Trade him? Suspend him quietly and move on? Nobody knows for sure, but one thing's clear. There's no way things go back to normal after something like this. Once a coach says he's done, that relationship is over. You can't walk that back without losing credibility. And here's where it gets really interesting from a locker room perspective. Quinn's trying to set a tone, right? He came in promising to clean things up, bring accountability, and change the vibe that's haunted the Commanders for years. This might actually be him putting his foot down and showing everyone that no one's bigger than the team, not even a star player. In that sense, maybe this explosion wasn't just a meltdown. Maybe it was calculated frustration, a breaking point that had to happen to make a statement. Coaches sometimes do that, you know? They'll take one moment, one player, and use it as an example to wake everyone else up. It's the old school mentality: rip off the bandage, show some teeth, and get the locker room's attention. If that's what Quinn was doing, it might actually strengthen his hold on the team in the long run. But of course, that depends on how the players react. Some might respect it, while others could see it as a sign that things are spiraling. Either way, this kind of internal conflict has ripple effects. The media is going to run with it, fans are going to speculate, and suddenly, the Commanders' focus shifts from football to drama. That's the last thing they need heading into a crucial stretch of the season. Quinn's known for saying that details win games. But right now, it's the details off the field that are threatening to derail the momentum he's trying to build. If this turns into a full-blown power struggle, it could define his first season in Washington. But if he handles it right, if he stays firm, keeps the locker room united, and turns this into a lesson in accountability, it could actually become a turning point for the franchise. Imagine the team meeting the next morning. Quinn walks in, dead silent room, everyone waiting to see what he'll say. He doesn't yell, doesn't rant. He just looks around and says something like, "This is what happens when you don't put the team first." That's the kind of moment that can either break a group apart or forge them into something stronger. The veterans would get it. The rookies would take note. And everyone would understand that this isn't the same old Washington Commanders anymore. There's a new sheriff in town, and his patience has limits. Still, the question remains, who's the player? The mystery's only adding fuel to the fire. Some fans online are already analyzing practice footage, sideline clips, even body language during press conferences, trying to figure out who might have been on Quinn's bad side. Social media is buzzing with theories, and it's becoming one of those storylines that takes on a life of its own. But for now, the team's staying tight-lipped. The official statement from the Commanders' PR team was a classic non-answer. Coach Quinn is focused on preparing the team for the upcoming game. We do not comment on internal matters. Translation: yeah, something happened, but we're not talking. It's wild how fast things can unravel in the NFL. One heated exchange, one broken moment of trust, and suddenly a whole organization scrambling to keep the walls from cracking. But maybe, just maybe, this is the kind of storm that leads to growth. Maybe Quinn's explosion wasn't just about losing his temper. It was about sending a message that the old culture's dead and gone. Still, you can't help but wonder how this will play out. Will the player quietly disappear from the roster? Will he speak out publicly and throw gasoline on the fire? And will Quinn, who's built his reputation on being steady and composed, be able to regain that image after such an emotional outburst? Only time will tell, but for now, all eyes are on Washington. What started as just another day at practice has turned into a full-blown saga of leadership, ego, and consequence. One coach's breaking point could end up being the defining moment of the Commanders' season. And if there's one thing we know about the NFL, it's that these kinds of moments never stay buried for long. Someone's going to talk. Someone always does. And when that happens, we'll finally know exactly what pushed Dan Quinn over the edge, and whether this was the beginning of a new era or the start of a deeper unraveling. Either way, this story's far from over, and the fallout's going to be fascinating to watch. Thanks for tuning into District Command Central. Make sure to subscribe and follow us for all the Commanders news you need. Until next time, keep the faith and hail to the Commanders.